Billionaire said, "I don't shake hands with staff." Moments later, black woman pulled 5B backing. The room hums with the kind of silence that only money can buy. Thick carpets swallowing footsteps, glass walls gleaming with the promise of impossible returns. Cameras and attendants hover at the edges, tasting proximity to power. He steps forward, every gesture calibrated, every smile rehearsed, offering his hand to the men in suits lined up like trophies. Then he reaches the last figure, dark blazer, simple notebook, calm posture, and waves her aside without looking. Not with staff. It lasts a heartbeat, maybe two, but breaks like glass in her chest. No raised voices, no apology, just the clean, polished cruelty of certainty. And moments later, the $5 billion leaves with her. Her name is Maya Ellison, and she has walked into rooms that were not designed for her since she was old enough to notice the way doors clung to their hinges. She learned to read numbers the way others read faces, learned to hear risk the way others hear music. By 42, she had become chief investment officer for one of the largest public funds in the country, a guardian of teachers' retirements and bus drivers' futures, a steward of long horizons in a world wired for the next quarter. Maya knows these rooms, the air-conditioned bravado, the $40,000 table that pretends at collaboration, the unspoken choreography of who sits where. She recognizes the rhythm, the founding story shaped into myth, the charts glowing with curated certainty, the performance of inevitability. She also knows her own rhythm, the stillness that makes people underestimate her, the quiet questions that pull the seams of a pitch until the threads show. Today's meeting is routine and not routine. The firm across the table has grown into a colossus with acquisitions that reshape cities and ambitions that swallow continents. They want more capital, her capital, to lock in the next decade of dominance. Her team has done the work, mapped the downside, calculated breathing room for storms. She has concerns, but nothing fatal. At least that was true in the elevator. The moment happens before introductions finish. The billionaire founder moves like someone chased by time, offering handshakes like confetti. When he reaches Maya, he flicks his wrist toward an assistant as if shooing a fly, signaling that he does not shake hands with staff. The word lands like ash. He turns away. And in that small public erasure, Maya hears a much bigger story roaring awake. There is a particular violence in being misread on purpose. It is not the kind that leaves bruises. It is the kind that rewrites you to fit another person's comfort, the kind that steals your name and hands you a uniform. Maya knows it well. It has greeted her at reception desks and boardroom thresholds, disguised as jokes, as oversights, as harmless assumptions. But inside the assumption lives a verdict. You do not belong in the place where decisions are made. She sits through the presentation without blinking. The slides bloom with superlatives, market-leading, category-defining, uncorrelated alpha. There is a chart so steep it looks like a cliff face and a headline from a magazine that measures power in lists. Her team beside her is steady, attentive. She holds her pen like a metronome and lets the mask of neutrality hold. It's not about a handshake, she tells herself. It's about the structure underneath it, the way capital amplifies character, the way a person who believes some hands are not worth touching can shape the lives of millions who will never sit at this table. As the meeting unfolds, the founder thickens his legend, scrappy origins, insomnia that forged victories, a talent for spotting undervalued assets like a divining rod finds water. He uses the word merit with the confidence of someone who has never been penalized for their mistakes, only paid for them. He speaks of efficiency in a way that hums with layoffs. He points to diversity initiatives phrased as compliance rather than conviction. He praises a culture of excellence that sounds like a demand to assimilate. Maya thinks about the teachers who write her letters asking whether their pensions will be safe, about the nurse who stopped her once and said that the statement in the mail felt like a promise. She thinks about the interns in her office, first-generation college students with big, hopeful eyes, who sit straighter when she walks by because her presence means their futures have a shape they can see. Numbers matter to her, but so does the story of the numbers. She flips through the deck and marks the line items that aren't exactly wrong, but not entirely honest. The places where assumptions stretch thin, a line for community engagement that hides a maze of fees, A projection that relies on political winds blowing one direction forever, a risk tolerance wrapped in buzzwords. It is a good deal on paper. It is a bad deal for the world that must hold it. After the meeting, in the corridor scented like cedar and decision, the founder's assistant offers a nervous smile. The billionaire does not look up. He is already on a call, his voice smooth, his schedule full of people who will reflect him back. Maya's team watches her closely, sensing the storm behind her eyes but trusting the lighthouse of her judgment. She gives nothing away. She thanks the staff who actually are staff because she knows what it means to be seen. In the car, the city slides by, steel and glass and murals that shout pride into the sky. She thinks about her grandmother's hands sorting letters in a small-town post office, about a father who kept every rejection she ever got not as wounds but as fuel. She remembers a mentor who taught her that capital is not neutral. It is a vote cast daily about what deserves to grow. If money is a megaphone, then her fund's money is a cathedral bell. At her desk, she pulls the diligence files. She drafts questions that pierce where the deck had glossed, tracing the shape of arrogance through footnotes. She thinks of the handshake withheld as a data point. What happens when that disdain becomes policy? What choices get made when a person maps the world in hierarchies so reflexive they operate like heartbeat? Where will the pain land? It is never theoretical. It is always someone's rent, someone's clinic, someone's job, someone's chance. Morning breaks with a sky the color of steel. The committee gathers. Actuaries with careful eyes, trustees who carry the weight of whole communities on their shoulders, analysts whose spreadsheets look like galaxies of reason. Maya presents the investment case, and then she tells the truth that lives inside the numbers. She outlines the risk not just of market turbulence, but of moral hazard. The danger of entrusting enormous leverage to an operator whose values thin out when the room stops watching. She describes the handshake that wasn't without drama as one of a pattern of signals observed. She reports on the firm's record with vendors in neighborhoods that look like the one she grew up in. The attrition rates that spike for black employees after year 2. The lawsuits settled quietly, the community promises that dissolve into fine print. She shows what happens when press releases glow and payrolls dim. She maps the line between disdain and decisions. Who gets squeezed first? Who gets laid off? Who gets priced out of their homes when acquisitions extract instead of invest? The room is silent in the way of important things. The question is not whether the investment will make money, but whether it will make the world poorer while doing so. Whether in 10 years the fund will be richer and its retirees will live in communities hollowed out by the very success they financed. Maya makes her recommendation. Redeploy the $5 billion to managers who meet both the return targets and the dignity test. Allocate to infrastructure that stitches neighborhoods together rather than erasing them. Back founders who build cultures expansive enough to hold many kinds of hands. She presents a short list, a mosaic of proven operators, overlooked specialists, and mission-anchored funds with track records that are quietly excellent. The vote is not close. Steady hands rise around the table. The decision passes. A phone call is placed. A calendar entry disappears. Somewhere across town, a billionaire steps out of a black car into a lobby run like a shrine to his importance. His assistant's phone vibrates. The message is simple. The public fund will not participate in the round. The air shifts, barely perceptible, like a temperature drop before a storm. The clean, polished certainty of the empire finds a hairline crack. In the days that follow, a rumor circulates through the corridors of power with the soft-footed persistence of truth. No headline shouts it at first. The markets do not quake, but within certain rooms, voices lower. Was it performance? Was it terms? Or was it something else? Something measured in the space between a gesture and a person, in the distance between who deserves a handshake and who does not. Independent operators feel the tremor like a signal flare. A small firm led by a Latina engineer lands a mandate to retrofit schools with clean energy systems, generating bond-like returns while lowering bills for districts strapped by deficits. A credit strategy, run by a former community banker, secures capital to help local businesses acquire their own buildings, instead of getting displaced. A logistics company with a black woman at the helm scales warehousing jobs that come with training ladders instead of revolving doors. In the mosaic of redeployment, $5 billion stops being abstract. It becomes refrigerated trucks delivering fresh food. It becomes fiber optic lines threading through rural towns. It becomes welding apprenticeships and dental clinics and main streets that no longer whisper vacancy. Inside Maya's office, a stack of handwritten notes grows. A music teacher writes about buying a home within bus distance of her school. A sanitation worker shares that his knee surgery didn't require a second job to cover the gap. They do not know about lobbies and handshakes. They know that other people's decisions have always written their lives in invisible ink, and suddenly the script feels legible. The billionaire issues a careful statement about strategic alignment. His PR team adds language about inclusion. The apology never arrives, but something better does, a recalibration born not of public shaming, but of private accountability. In future meetings, he studies the last person in the line. He learns names. He notices who is missing. He shakes hands. Maya keeps moving. She mentors the interns who watch her with the alert affection of those searching for a mirror. She sits on panels where she declines to be the syrup poured over a bitter truth. She insists on the connection between spreadsheets and streets, between returns and the right to be regarded as equal. This is not a neat ending. Racism does not dissolve because a check is rerouted. But money is a language that power respects, and on a gray morning in a glass room, it learned a new word: enough. If capital is a vote for the future we intend to live in, then what did this vote say? And if a single withheld handshake could cost $5 billion, what could the open palm of shared dignity build next?